I don't know how many countries in the world can put together something like this. This is a wildly different set of characters. Wait, am I missing DMs? Okay, this is what conservatives won't acknowledge, it drives me crazy. Giving a vaccine, you're not thinking about whether or not is the vaccine effective or is it harmful. That's not the thought. People think that's what you're thinking about. That's not at all the thought. The thought is it's not the vaccine competing against no vaccine. Do you have an opinion on colleges going test optional? I think I said this before and people got really triggered. And I don't mean to trigger people, but I think in general, I think test scores and class scores are gonna be highly correlated with capability and intelligence. I think they're good to have it. It's incredibly rare when you meet somebody who's like, oh, I'm so smart, but I just can't pass any of these tests and I just keep failing all my classes. That is incredibly rare. People will bring out like the one or two counterexamples, and it happens, nothing is 100%. But in general, if you find that you're failing a lot, then you either don't grasp the material well or you need to pick a different field or subject or whatever. But yeah, I'm sorry, yeah. I have an anxiety disorder, tests are hard for me. Okay, but like, what is the job you want to work? Like, how is the anxiety disorder going to affect your job? Or, I don't know. I mean, it could, but also wait, I just got well actually. An anxiety disorder is not the normal person. It's the average person shouldn't have an anxiety disorder. I split the VOD. Attempt to pass a proof-based math class through pure intelligence, I dare you. I don't understand what you're saying. I'm not saying that it's just pure raw IQ that gets you through tests. I'm saying that it's going to be that plus like studying and learning and mastering the material. What is the argument for increasing the diversity of the country being a good thing? Genuinely asking. It just seems to be the case that having a more diverse collection of people like confers a whole bunch of soft benefits that are just really hard to measure directly and discreetly, but in the aggregate seem to just be true. There was one big, I need to find this at some point. Somebody can find it. There's either a huge working paper on the MBER, or it might be actually published research that like firms that are more diverse just outcompete firms that aren't. There might be a lot of tangential reasons why that is the case, but that just like appears to be a fact. Like more diverse firms tend to outcompete other ones. Having a larger pool of people, like different people to draw from or that are collaborating together or working together just can create new ideas and things that you weren't aware of before. Like another example of this, for instance, is like there's a synergistic effect that happens when multiple firms are operating in close geographic proximity to one another. That if you have a city where there's a lot of tech firms operating in close proximity, just having these workers near each other can create synergistic effects that benefit companies and stuff. So, yeah. Outperformance is not always good. Okay. Would you agree that memory-based standardized tests that don't allow class notes are counterproductive because you could always look that shit up in real life? Maybe. It depends on the test, maybe. Sure. I can't speak to what schools are like. I've been in school for 20 years. I don't know. So what are some of the soft benefits? The soft benefits is you get people together with unique backgrounds that can deliver you products or things that you might have never gotten in a similar background. So like, this conversation I think was super entertaining. I would say this content was really good. I'm just looking at this from an entertainment side right now. I don't know how many countries in the world can put together something like this. I think Walter just like African-American background? I think Myron is it from Sudan? No. What is his ethnic background? Like my mom is from Cuba. Sneako's dad is from Haiti? Haitian, I think half. Oh, he's Caribbean? Yeah, it is Sudan. Like this table, this show, everything that happened here, like this is a pretty, like historically, geographically speaking, this is a wildly different set of characters that are brought around a table to have this debate and this discussion. And arguably, like all of our pathways to get here are part of the things that influence why we have the beliefs that we have, right? I don't know how old Myron was when he came to the United States, but the fact that this is a guy from Sudan who also started working for the Department of Homeland Security as a federal officer and then is now doing a show and having the opinions that he has is probably largely informed by a lot of his background. The fact that my mom was Cuban and I grew up as a conservative because she's Cuban gave me the ability to kind of like empathetically integrate with a lot of these other platforms in a more fun way than a lot of people have. That's the only reason I'm here. I'm pretty sure for Sneako, I think he talks about his dad being Haitian quite a bit and a lot of the relationships he had with his father for a lot of the filming stuff that he did and a lot of the short films, the videos that he did, that probably influenced him a lot. I don't remember Walter's background exactly. I don't know his as well, but yeah, I'm just saying like this would be an example of a diverse background coming together and creating something that is probably more interesting than just, I don't want to do the progressive meme, but is more interesting just like 4 white dudes that all came from Kentucky sitting together, like talking about their experiences, you know? Wait, hold on one sec. So how is diversity good? People on this podcast are stupid as fuck. Well, the point of this podcast is to be entertaining, right? And this is super entertaining. And I think that what's being discussed here and everything is something unique about the United States. You could also argue that there are groups of people in the United States that have contributed to our like worldwide dominance on a tech scale that also has to do with things related to diversity. So for instance, like there's the meme about a ton of Indians or a ton of Asians, that are super highly excelling in places like, in like the software tech world, for instance, in the software development world or whatever, right? That a lot of these coders will come from overseas and they come and work in the United States. And some people might meme and say they do shitty work, but there's a lot of native people that do shitty work. You've got, there's a lot of trans people that work in San Francisco in tech related stuff, and they've been integrated really well into those environments, or so I've heard from a few people. Do you really want mass immigration taking away your son's job for retard podcasts like this? Entertainment is ruining the young minds. I don't know what the fuck that means. I don't think immigrants are going to take anybody's jobs. I don't think that happens. And the truth is that doesn't happen. In practice, it just doesn't really happen that immigrants steal jobs. But if you're referring to current situations when you have mass illegal migrants with no knowledge of their criminal background entering our community, coupled with known people on the terror watch list, it's not an effective way to improve diversity. That's why the FBI director has come out and time again saying the American public should be alert. I don't know why you would ask me about how diversity can benefit a country and then start talking about illegal immigration. These are two completely and totally separate. Those are two completely and totally separate things. Do you think that we should let immigrants in that don't have Western values or believe in basic liberal ideal? I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. My heart and my gut want to say yes, but the problem is that if you were to start trying to pick who can be in this country based on their adherence to like democratic or liberal ideals or whatever, you would have to axe out like half the Republicans at this point. Half the conservative population in the United States are not committed to principles of American freedom and democracy. So I don't even know how the fuck you would answer that question. How many workers do you think are illegally untaxed? I don't know. From legal and illegal, I don't know. It depends on how many people get paid under the table. We should only be taking the most skilled and qualified candidates to come into the U.S. That's a myth and a meme. Like unskilled workers are also big contributors to an economy. Skilled and unskilled workers are contributors to an economy. You don't just need skilled workers. That's a myth. I've got a really good diversity argument equals different food joints. Don't think anyone can. Yeah, but Nazis. I shouldn't say Nazis. I'm sorry. The far right people don't accept those. They don't care about food or music, so they say that the cultural arguments aren't good ones. Is there any logical reason to take in Muslim immigrants over alternatives? So one thing that I got that was interesting is we have a 7% immigration cap for any particular country coming to the United States. It's a ceiling on each country. No group of permanent immigrants, family and employment-based combined from a single country can exceed 7% of the total number of people immigrating to the U.S. in a single fiscal year. I think that might be a good idea to prevent, you don't want to take in a whole bunch of people that are all the same and like fundamentally alter in a dramatic way, maybe the character of your country. But I don't know what like the test ought to be or what kind of people you ought to be looking for. I haven't thought about that one in depth yet. I'll probably have a stronger feeling about it by the time we hit the end of this research arc. Diversity has advantages, but many diversity policies have far worse side effects than what they bring to the table. Affirmative action. I'm not talking about DEI. I'm not talking about affirmative. I'm not talking about any of the cringe shit. We didn't even get close to that. I'm saying that having a more diverse group of people is generally better than not having a more diverse group of people. All else equal. That's all I'm saying. But that doesn't mean that if you lower the standards for everybody who's black or female, then obviously that might not continue to be true. At some point, that's going to change very, very quickly, probably. That's an argument I've never in my life heard before, but it's pretty funny, and maybe that's true. Even if you get criminals from other countries, it is still better than a criminal coming from your own country. Criminals from your country took 18 years of resources just to go to jail, while migrants would just go to jail after arriving. Maybe that's true. I didn't even think of that. Imagine if we took all the immigrants post-1964 and replaced them with white immigrants, and tell me that we wouldn't have a better country with a higher standard of living. Even if we did, you must understand that for all of you guys on the right that talk about bringing in immigrants from white countries, you know that they're not siding with you ever. You realize that, right? People don't immigrate to the United States from fucking Norway and vote for Donald Trump. Or come from fucking France and want to vote for Donald Trump. Or come from fucking Germany, or from Sweden, or Finland, or from Italy, and are like, oh, I'm going to vote for the conservatives. All of those people think you're fucking insane. So the idea that like, oh, if they would all just be white, we would be even more progressive. We would probably be even more cucked in your eyes. Like... Is the border crisis entirely related to people seeking asylum? Should seeking asylum at the border be banned? I don't know. I'm not sure. Is the diversity effect an emergent characteristic of different cultures coming together, or just a product of a larger pool of people to choose from? It's probably more the former than the latter, would be my guess. Is there an upper bound to how much immigration the U.S. can accept in a given time frame? I imagine, probably, yeah. I just feel like Sam Hyde has made a lot of strong arguments as to why Muslim immigration should probably not be allowed in Western countries. Why? But not all Muslims are the same. Why would you generalize? They're so different. Muslims from Somalia are going to have a way different set of characteristics than Muslims that fled Syria, or Muslims that live in Israel, or like Saudi Arabian Muslims versus those that live in fucking, southern Lebanon with Hezbollah. Like these people are going to have different characteristics. Do you think that the Scandinavian countries' prosperity has anything to do with their level of racial or cultural hegemony? I don't know. I don't think so. I'm not sure if that... It seems more just like they're small countries. Some of them are really lucky with natural resources. Fucking Norway. Yeah, I don't know. Do you live in any caps on immigration? Yeah, you probably have to cap it somewhat. Like if 1 billion people from India wanted to come here tomorrow, probably not a good idea, right? Racial homogeneity has been shown to be beneficial when it comes to social trust, etc. Has it, though? I know there was the one... David... Fuck, what was the name of the guy? There's one guy that gets cited all the time for that. I haven't dug into that research a lot, so I don't have a strong opinion on it. But, like, aren't there places that were pretty socially or pretty ethnically homogenous that had huge fucking problems too? Like, what about all the Irish shit? Were those people completely different ethnicities? Like the fighting between the Northern Irish and the Republic of Ireland? Or what about the Serbs and like the breakup of Yugoslavia and all of that? Weren't those people all pretty ethnically similar? Or what about like Syria? Like, aren't those people all pretty ethnically similar? Or Yemen, those people are all pretty ethnically similar? Or any of the number of fucking genocides that happen in Africa, aren't those people like pretty ethnically similar? Like, yeah, I don't know if I buy into the idea that people that are ethnically similar, that are just like in an area, won't fight. Like, I feel like you can always draw divisions on different lines. It might correlate a little bit to it, but I don't know. Isn't having skilled immigrants better than non-skilled ones for the losers in your states? A lot of unskilled workers will take jobs from native unskilled workers. The thing is that if you get a lot of unskilled workers, it allows other unskilled workers to move into, I think Card's research claims that they move into complementary positions. So if you're an ordinary whatever worker at a McDonald's and five immigrants come in and they're capable of working a position that you work because you've had a little bit more time in the country, because you speak fluent English, the chances of you being boosted to like a supervisor or something is higher if you've got other immigrants that can fill in like roles similar to what you're working. All of those examples were ethnic civil wars, except Ireland, Limfeo. Yeah, but what you call an ethnic civil war is probably drawn on a line that's way smaller than what you realize you're asking for. When, like, this is always my problem with the Nazis, is you guys think that, like, white is an ethnicity. It's the most American, that's the most like globo homo diverse opinion that you could possibly have, is when you think that all white people are from the same ethnic background. It's such a cringe American take. And it is so stupid. So you might look at ethnic conflict in other parts of the world, like, oh, well, look at these people. They're all like ethnically, those are stemming from ethnic differences. Like, you have way more ethnic differences in the average like far right group now. Yeah, especially when you get into Americans, like, oh no, if you came from white European stock, we're definitely like, we've got a high level of homogeneity. No, you fucking don't, bro. You have no idea what any of these people in Europe look at other white people as like. Like an American Nazi guy will look at a German ethnic background, Russian ethnic background, and Scandinavian ethnic background as all the same shit. And in fucking Europe, they can see this shit like instantly. Like, is that dude white? No, what the fuck? He's not white. This dude is fucking German. This guy looks fucking Russian. Like, this guy looks fucking Slavic. Like, you can instantly see these people and tell like what they look like. But to an American, especially to American far right people, like, oh my God, that's a European. That's a European over there. He's a European. I'm like you. I'm European, bro. Like, cringe. Mostly true, but you're exaggerating. I'm not exaggerating. Ukraine is a perfect example of that. They're at war, and the difference between Russians and Ukrainians is minimal. Yeah, true. Have you addressed the point of how most of the economic benefits of immigration are essentially a wealth transfer from low-skill American workers to corporations and immigrant workers? I haven't addressed that because it's probably not true. Wealth transfer from incoming people, what does that even mean? It sounds like what you're actually saying is, I don't understand anything about economics, and I think that economics is a zero-sum game. So if somebody is benefiting in an economic situation, I need to find the loser. So if a corporation is benefiting by hiring a worker, that must mean that somebody's losing. I need to find the loser, and that loser is going to be a native worker. Economics is not a zero-sum game. You can have economic transactions where both sides are gaining and wealth is being created, and this is how the whole history of economics works. It's not a zero-sum game. Just because there's a winner in some economic deal doesn't mean there has to be a loser on the other side of it. Turkish Muslims are very secular and don't like Wahhabi Islam. Iranians in the US are more liberal than Russian Caucasians, like Khabib, who hides his wife. Okay. What the fuck is this? Okay, we're going to read this article tomorrow, and we're going to do all our immigration research tomorrow, and it's going to be amazing, guys. My debate with Alex starts in 8 minutes. In college, this drunken frat bro started making clicking noises at me because I said I was East African. I said, "You racist piece of shit, I bet you have no idea where I'm from." And with no hesitation, he said, "You're probably from, is this Eritrea or is it Eritrea?" Eritrea? He must have saw something in advance. Actually, it's probably just a fake story, but... What is your steel man for Nazis? I do not think you've ever done it. Pretty sure I did do it in a conversation with Mr. Girl. But we had a lot of arguments today. I still love you. I love you too, buddy. Oh, Dan has a video he wants us to watch as well. What is your counter to race realism as it relates to IQ? It's the same counter as most people that have like an orthodox view of society, and that like there's IQ is highly heritable. IQ is also highly polygenetic, and I don't know if there's been enough evolutionary pressure on different groups of people that average IQ differences between different groups of people that I would say it's 100% explained by a hereditary factor for IQ. I think it's just too strong of a claim. But on the other side, for people who say that there's no amount of difference between groups of people based on genetics and the heritability of IQ, that's too strong of a claim as well. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle, but it's a contentious topic for a variety of political and social reasons, but two, it's also legitimately an incredibly difficult thing to investigate. Kevin Bass claims he did DM you arguments several days ago. Did he actually? I've been getting a lot of death threats the past few days, so I might have missed it.
Why specifically? Did you do anything especially enticing?
I don't know. So probably something, I just don't know. Don't remember. How many days ago? I don't see it. What's his name? Kevin Is it Bass or Bass? What do you think? Oh, he did. Wait, when was this? Thursday. I wonder why this doesn't show up in my DMs. Wait, am I missing DMs? Kevin Bass. Wait, I'm so paranoid now. Control F. Damn, I'm so paranoid. I don't know how this DM doesn't show up in my DMs. That's really spooky. Okay, well, he did DM me. All right, let's see what we got. 2 debate propositions. 1, hundreds of public health authorities, government officials, establishment media, and other public figures relevant to the pandemic response, pharmaceutical executives, philanthropists, etc., consistently, repeatedly, and systematically misled the public about the capability of the COVID-19 vaccine to stop transmission, block transmission, stop you from getting the virus, become a dead end, achieve herd immunity, and end the pandemic. These messages were intended to mean that the vaccine was either 100% effective or nearly 100% effective in blocking infection and transmission. The model that the authorities universally presented to the public was something akin to the measles or smallpox vaccine models, which produce nearly 100% lifelong immunity. It can result in 0 infection nationwide. But the data showed that this model was either false or unsupported at the time. Respectable critics within the scientific community pushed back. They objected to these messages, which reached in the hundreds of statements. Even CDC spokespeople pushed back, but top officials, including the CDC director, kept repeating these lies and providing the false narrative, even when top scientists and spokespeople at their own agencies pointed out it was wrong. Most of the time, 100% blockage of infection and transmission was stated. However, even when it was acknowledged that it might not be exactly 100% blockage, the measles vaccine model was still used as the working model, which was nearly 100%. So it was either 100% or nearly 100%, but this is also a lie. Thus, it was several layers of lies piled one on top of the other. Nuances were provided only to propagate more lies. These messages were intended to be taken literally and were intended literally. The individuals who promulgated them really meant them and did not expect for the public to have some sort of vaccine messaging decoder ring to properly interpret them. They meant exactly what they sounded like. The vaccine either completely or, okay, fine, nearly completely stops transmission like the measles vaccine does and can end the pandemic like the measles and smallpox vaccine did. The effectiveness is 100%. Most public statements are nearly 100%. When forced to provide caveats, these were all lies all the time. What was the effectiveness of it on the initial virus? Was it 95% efficacy?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Pfizer vaccine effectiveness. Is it called the Alpha? Is the first SARS-CoV-2 strain called Alpha or?
SARS-CoV.
SARS-CoV-2 is the virus, but I'm trying to find the very first thing.
I understand.
The phase 3 trials were 95%, but phase 3 trials I think are only a few hundred people, right? In trials, it was over 90% effective at preventing serious disease. Was it preventing serious disease, or was it for preventing? Oh, it says for preventing symptomatic COVID.
You remember when it was a simpler day when we made fun of the people who got the Johnson & Johnson vaccine?
Yeah, Hutch came in a couple weeks ago, and that meme, he pulled me back into reality. That meme was the big one that reinforced my idea that nobody thought these vaccines were initially 100%, because everybody argued over whether you got the amazing Pfizer or like the okay like Moderna or the dog shit J&J, and the joke was always over like what was the most effective one. But everybody says that, oh no, back then everybody was saying that all the vaccines were 100% effective. But I'm pretty sure the only people who thought that were dipshit conservatives. But it's not because of what they heard from the media. It's because it's what they heard conservative media say the media were saying.
I don't even know if they were talking about that back then, the differential. It was just always like nobody wanted the J&J because it was less effective.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it gave you more symptoms.
I don't know if it gave you more symptoms. It just wasn't as effective.
No, it did. It absolutely did. Right? Unless I'm completely misremembering, like people were making it seem like the J&J one definitely was a little bit more risky than the other one with the knowledge they had at the time. I don't know if it ended up being true that it was like more dangerous or not than the other ones, but I know at the time for sure people were saying, hey, listen, if you're pregnant, don't take J&J or shit like that. Like there was more danger behind it. So if you got the J&J, you were like the poor or something. You were the poors that couldn't get the poggers, Pfizer one or Moderna. You don't remember any of this at all?
No, I don't remember J&J. I remember AstraZeneca had a thing for a little bit. I wonder if J&J got pulled for a few days because of worry for blood clots maybe, but then it stopped. But
I mean, there was something, but I mean, definitely the vibe behind it was that like, if you were going to get a vaccine, you didn't want to get the J&J one. You were like, fuck, I don't want to do that. You want the
J&J was less effective because it was a single dose and meant to last longer overall compared to the other ones.
Is that even true?
I don't know.
I don't think that's true.
I don't know if you can make it last longer. Oh, wait. Oh, God. I'm friends with the guy now. Hold on. Where is he? What's the name of the funk guy?
Funkhauser?
Dan the Afro Man. Hey, are you awake at the moment? Debunk the funk. He's like a vaccine dude. We're friends on Discord.
Marty Funkhauser.
J&J wasn't mRNA, I believe. No, the J&J one was a attenuated virus, I believe. I think. Am I making that up? It's where you take a virus and it's either a killed or weakened version. Is that an attenuated virus vaccine? Uses a disabled adenovirus to deliver the Yeah, this is. Okay, I think they're considered attenuated viral. What?
Here, you got to watch this clip. It's a little bit safe for work, but not safe for work, but it goes specifically to the vibe of what J&J had at the time. Click it and watch it.
Okay. Did you support shutting down religious services during that time? In the very beginning, before we knew what was going on, probably. But I think probably 50% of people in chat. I think this is like you have to have an IQ of like 102 or higher. So I think at least half of you are incapable of doing a in the past perspective analysis. You can't do it. Like if I say to you, at the time I could understand taking a lot of precautions, your response is going to be, what do you mean? Nothing bad happened. You're not capable of like thinking prospectively from a moment in time. You can only think retrospectively. That's it. So I'm not even going to waste my fucking time on this right now because I'm going to get hella fucking triggered.
I walk in the doctor like, give me the third best option.
I don't understand the conservatives that are saying this.
Nobody wanted it.
Yeah,
right?
but why?
Yeah. Because like it was giving you side effects.
No, it was because the efficacy was lower. It's because everybody thought
there was more side effects with this one. I know it. Like weren't they literally? God, I'm gonna feel. Actually, I don't give a shit. COVID's fucking over.
Well, maybe it's a bubble thing. Everybody that even like well, hold on. Wait, don't say anything. Or no, wait. You can say whatever you want. Wait.
I thought
Are you awake?
The J&J thing had more side effects announced in the press as a result of it. and people were kind of nervous about doing it. And like maybe if you were pregnant, you can't take it, and if you do take it, maybe you're supposed to keep like track of your heart rate or some shit. Because I don't know. That's what I feel like it was, but I don't remember because it was like 600 years ago.
Wait, who just joined? Oh, like him.
Dan is right. Like, I'm not saying from a medical perspective or what was actually announced by CDC or anything. I'm just saying there was that myth that, like, because I got the Pfizer one, it was like, oh, thank God I got the Pfizer one, because everyone's saying the J&J one, makes your arm hurt worse, your side effects, like the sickness you get the day after, like, is way worse. So
all of the friends, all the normie friends, well, I shouldn't say normie, that's not true at all. I'm thinking vaccine normie or political normie. But I remember for Lily and OTV, they were all talking about getting it, but I don't remember it being side effects. It's because of I remember people were talking about like, oh yeah, J&J, you're still gonna get sick. That's what I remember hearing back then. But maybe once the J&J blood clot thing happened, maybe that conversation topic changed.
I don't know. I just remember thinking that like getting the shot your day and day after were gonna be way worse on Johnson & Johnson. And that's why I was happy I got Pfizer. That's all. I'll listen to you guys fight about it.
Be careful, babe. She's not responding to me on Discord. Ever since I told her I was never voting for Trump, she stopped responding to all my DMs. Remember this Destiny J was like, J&J was 60% effective, the others were 90. Yeah. Also, I'm curious, what do conservatives think everybody meant when they said flatten the curve? What do they think that was referring to? I think people are incapable of comprehending partially effective vaccines. Yeah, well, I'm trying to think for that too. I think the main reason is because some diseases don't change much, so your immune system will always remember. But apparently other diseases change a lot. But like, is that true for tetanus? I'm trying to think of, your immune system remembers some things forever. People are saying that it's for a good or bad vaccine, but I don't think it has anything to do with the vaccine. I think it has to do with the disease, right? So like, if you get the measles vaccine, I don't think you'll get measles. But if you get measles, I don't think you get measles again, right? Isn't that a disease you get once? So it's not really, but okay.
I think you can get it. I think you can get it again, actually. Measles. It's just unlikely, I believe.
Well, but that's the same thing with the vaccine too.
Or something? Right?
No, shingles, I think, is when you get, that's when you get chicken pox a second time, I think. Oh, no, that's when you get chicken pox for the first time as an adult, isn't it? That's why people like to get chicken pox. They do the chicken pox parties as kids, and you get chicken pox as a child, I think. Measles doesn't mutate as quick as the flu or COVID. Yeah, that's my understanding. All immunities wane, but some wane faster than others. I don't know if that's true. I don't, okay, okay. Listen, this guy's coming. Okay, we're testing the limits.
Make sure you preface your statements. You know
I
what
won't
to say.
preface. I don't give a fuck.
Say the line. It's your understanding.
I think your body has two ways, I think, of fighting infections broadly, I think. When you get infected by a thing, the bad guy comes in, and then your body sees the bad guy, it like fucks it, and then it comes back with a perfectly shaped dick for your vagina thing to blah, 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 blah. Your immune system, I think, it's got two huge ways of remembering, I think, the infection. So one is, I think your body produces antibodies that plug into the virus and kill it, or bacteria and kill it in the best way. And after you're sick for some number of months, a whole bunch of these antibodies will still be floating around in your body. But so if you get sick again and the virus or bacteria, whatever pathogen comes in, the antibodies will go and kill it, and it's just fucked completely. But antibodies don't last forever. In the beginning of the COVID stuff, people would look at the like the vaccines and they'd be like, oh my God, 6 to 8 months later, you don't have any antibodies left. Like, oh, it's totally fucking worthless. We were scammed. But antibodies always fade away. They don't last forever. But your body has, I don't remember if they're called memory B cells. Your body has memory cells to where if you get infected again, it's able to recreate those antibodies way quicker in the future. Antibodies will always fade away, I believe, months after the infection, some number of months it's measured. While you have antibodies present, you can kill stuff really quick so you don't even get sick. But I think you always have, some kind of memory cell that will remember the thing. But the problem is that for some viruses, like I believe influenza, the types of changes that the virus makes make it such that your immune system just doesn't recognize it ever. Like once it's mutated, it's like a whole different thing. If you have, obviously it's more complicated than this, but I think if you've got a virus, you'll have like two parts maybe. You have like the part here is what fucks your body up, and the part here might be like another mechanism by which it either locks into a cell or it does whatever. Sometimes when viruses mutate, because I think everything generally mutates, it's just like a rule of thumb, things tend to change around a little bit. Sometimes only these parts will mutate, the parts that might cause damage or the parts that infect your body quicker or whatever. But the proteins that are involved in identification don't change ever, or very, very, very rarely they change. I think this is the case with things like measles, to where it might mutate a little bit, but the fundamental proteins involved with identifying measles are basically always the same. So if you get infected once, your body's always going to remember that infection. But I think for things like influenza, the types of mutations that happen affect the surface where your body would identify it and the way that it spreads through your body and everything. So if you get infected with a different strain of the flu, you could have had 1,000 flu infections in the past, and it will confer absolutely zero immunity onto you for the next version of the flu if it mutates in such a way that your body just doesn't recognize it anymore. Pseudo-intellectual. What did I just say that was wrong? I remember hearing around that time that Pfizer would last longer than J&J and you wouldn't need a booster as soon. That might have been true for Pfizer, but if that was true, it's probably just because the dose was bigger and it was a series, because I think you got it 2 weeks later. But I believe that my understanding is that by the end of all of it, roughly the mRNA vaccines and like natural immunity had about the same protection from a future virus, and the antibodies lasted about as long as each other, I believe. Where do you draw the line or balance debating its effectiveness and whether its effectiveness is worth infringing on the rights of people not wanting to take it? That's a really hard one. I don't know. That's a really difficult question. The thing is that like everybody, I don't believe this is a principled stance. I think that this is a utilitarian stance for everybody. I think that but people won't acknowledge that. But for instance, if I could conceive of a virus that has a 95% kill rate that lays dormant for 10 weeks in the human body, but is still infectious in that time period, everybody would say, well, you got to get a vaccine or we're going to kill you. We will literally kill you if you do not get vaccinated. You're not allowed in here because I'm not going to have a dormant virus that kills me in 10 weeks. Fuck you. Okay. Everybody would be pro-vaccine, like pro-vaccine mandates under threat of murder from the government. I think everybody would say, yeah. But if there was a virus that had like a 0.001%, like serious illness rate, and you just went to the hospital, and then when you were in the hospital had like a 1% kill rate, nobody would be in favor of a forced like at gunpoint mandate. So I think that when we talk about mandating vaccines, it has to be a balance between. There's three things you have to balance for intelligent people. The balance is between the effectiveness of the vaccine, meaning how likely is it to either reduce the likelihood of getting infected or reduce the likelihood of serious symptoms. And then the second thing is balancing that with side effects. What are the side effects and how likely are those side effects? And then there's a third thing for conservatives, which is like bodily autonomy or some autistic shit that you have to balance for political reasons. But those are like the two really the huge things that you're trying to balance when you're thinking about like a mandate for a vaccine. How do you feel about the CDC loosening mandates and COVID disappearing from the media in general? Well, I mean, once we were like 6 to 12 months into the pandemic, I think that's kind of what everybody thought. It was like, now it's going to be, what is it called? Is it endemic at that point? It's just a virus we have to live with forever. I mean, that's what happens at some point. But like it mutated such to a point to where it's not like as horrible anymore. So, yeah. There's very few deaths now. Are there? Isn't it still more than the... Isn't it still more than like the highest flu seasons? Hold on, I'm gonna gut this and then we'll Google. I thought it was still around like projected in around like 50 to 100,000 a year, and bad flu seasons were like 60,000. But I'll check. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's gotten less than that. COVID deaths tracker USA. Deaths. What about the inverse moral conflict like The Last of Us? Someone has the ability to cure the world, but to make the vaccine, you have to kill them. Honestly, I think that's... Joel was probably morally in the wrong for that. Although I think they cuck out in either The Last of Us 2 or in the show. I think it was in The Last of Us 2 they cuck out, and they say that like, oh no, they tried this surgery in the past and it didn't work, so it probably wouldn't work with Ellie or something. What am I looking for? I'm looking for numbers. Some people will bring the antibody enhancement up. You should look this one up and have a counter argument ready. Are you talking about antibody ADE, antibody dependent enhancement? Yeah, no, vaccines are already tested for this. It's not a thing that we really worry about. That was just one thing that a conservative stumbled upon and started to spread that theory that this would happen, but it's just, we test for that in vaccines. The antibody-dependent enhancement is, if your parents bring this up, let's see. I'm trying to think of how this works. I think the way your immune system fights against the SARS-CoV-2 virus, I think what happens is there's like it's called the spike protein. This is the protein that is able to fuck one of your cells. There's a surface of the cell that has a protein that allows, is it ACE2? I think, I don't remember. I'm writing random shit here. I don't know if this is right or not. But basically there's a protein here that allows it to plug into the cell because the cell sees this protein and it's like, oh, cool, a friendly dude, come bang. And then once it gets in here, it splurges its load inside the cell and then it starts manufacturing more of the virus. I think what your antibodies are supposed to do is, I think your antibodies are supposed to plug into a part of the virus. I think it's the spike protein. And once they plug in, they can't do anything because the antibody isn't going to produce any virus because it's just an antibody. It's not like a full cell with like the ribosomes and production facilities. So it just floats there until, I think once an antibody attaches, I think it's macrophages. You've got huge, like disgusting vacuum cleaner dudes that come and eat everything that has like one of those guys attached to it. But I think that if you have an antibody that's stuck to the virus, if you've got an antibody that's stuck to the virus, then the virus shouldn't be able to infect a cell, and then it's marked for deletion from the macrophages, I think. But I think that there's an esoteric thing that can happen if you really bad called antibody-dependent enhancement. And this is like a really bad thing where you get a virus and you create something, or your body creates it, or a vaccine might do this incorrectly. And what happens is you find a way to plug into that virus, but you don't actually block the virus from attaching to a cell. You just block it from being seen by your immune system. So now what you've done is the antibodies of your body are plugging into it and they're shielding it from your immune system and they're letting it roam carte blanche through your body. And now you've actually enhanced the infection, the pathogen, because it could be bacterial or viral, I think. You've enhanced the infection now with your antibodies. And now you're because whenever your guy is attached to it, now it's like shielded from your immune system and it goes around and it moves with impunity through your body, which is not good. But ADE is something that is that's tested for when you're creating vaccines to make sure that interaction is not happening. Why the fuck? Or what's worse is the virus hijacking the antibodies to factorial out more viruses. I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if antibodies have human antibody.
All right, this is boring. We'll talk to you later.
Careful. What is an antibody cell? An antibody, or what? Can antibodies make anything? Why do so many plumbers, welders, typical masculine tradespeople claim they're capable of making 100K a year when the only people in the trades that make that much are real small business owners that hire tradespeople? Because they call themselves still like plumbers and shit. Like people say, oh, like my uncle's a plumber, he makes $250,000 a year. He probably started as a plumber and then he started as a plumber and then he started hiring other plumbers and working a business and now he's a business owner, but he still calls himself a plumber. Antibodies are just proteins. Yeah, I don't think an antibody is a full cell. I don't think an antibody can create anything. I think to create stuff, I think it has to be a ribosome. I think ribosomes, are the only thing in the human body that can make proteins, right? Am I wrong on that? Can anything else create a protein? B cells produce antibodies which bind pathogens and mark them for destruction by other immune cells. T cells kill infected host cells or help B cells produce more antibodies. Okay. What about mitochondria? Can they produce things? I don't think they produce anything. I'm pretty sure ribosomes are the only things that can make proteins in the body, I think. No, vaccines don't reduce all diseases to zero. Why the fuck do you think we have a yearly flu shot? The reason why you get a yearly flu shot is because it's really a different thing. Influenza is like a class of things. Are they coronaviruses or is that just the cold? When you get flu shots every year, you're not getting booster shots for the same thing. You're getting, it's for different strains of the flu. For different diseases, essentially. What? Hi, baby. Oh, hold on 1 second. Show dog. I'm gonna fuck your dog. The AD argument was only if you mandate a vaccine that doesn't confer total immunity, only partial. You run the risk of encouraging ADEs on a population level. I don't think that's true. If you only get partial immunity, you run the risk of encouraging ADEs on a population level. I've never heard that before. Maybe that is a thing and I just haven't heard of it. There's a lot of stuff I don't know about this. Given you're right about the contractors most of the time, you're still wrong. I befriended commercial refrigeration that can clear 160-ish a year. Let's bet you like that. If he does, he's a massive outlier. I can look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics and tell you what they make on average. Your friend is either a massive outlier or some people that work trades love to work and they'll work a fuck ton. If your friend makes that much, he might be working like 90 hours a week. Or he sells jobs illegally as an individual independent of his company. Flu shots contain vaccines for several strains and that they guess would be predominant this year. Yeah. But it's not the same flu. It's not like I don't think you would consider your flu shots every year. I don't think you would call those booster shots, right? But if you're uncertain about the vaccine's effectiveness in real time, how can we make a judgment on whether to limit individuals' rights in real time practically? Here's the problem, okay? This is what conservatives won't acknowledge. It drives me crazy. Giving a vaccine, you're not thinking about whether or not is the vaccine effective or is it harmful. That's not the thought. People think that's what you're thinking about. That's not at all the thought. The thought is it's not the vaccine competing against no vaccine. It's the vaccine competing against the disease. That's the question. You could theoretically manufacture a vaccine with a 50% fatality rate, and you could make a strong argument for mandating that at point of death to a population. You have to take this vaccine, even though it's got a 50% chance of killing you. Because maybe there's a disease circulating right now that has a 99% chance of killing you with an R0 of 5,000. It infects every single person you even lay eyes on, right? That's theoretically possible. When you're creating a vaccine, you're not trying to measure the effectiveness of the vaccine efficacy versus side effects if you want to do it. It's versus the potential disease as well. That's what you're racing against. That's what you're fighting. Yeah. The open letter written by this guy in March. In this open letter, I'm appealing to the WHO and all stakeholders involved, no matter their conviction, to immediately declare such actions as the single most important public health emergency of international concern. I'm all but an anti-vaxxer. Oh boy. So this guy, he's not a, wait, is he actually a PhD? Interesting. The writing, this is just written feels like a high school writing, just in the first two sentences. I'm sorry, it's just the vibe I get, but okay. Usually PhDs do a ton of writing, regardless of what they're in, but I am all about an anti-vaxxer. As a scientist, I do not usually appeal to any platform of this kind to make a stand on vaccine-related topics. As a dedicated virologist and vaccine expert, I only make an exception when health... Hold on, wait. What is this guy's background? Is this guy anything? my skepticism is off the charts right now. A Belgian veterinarian virologist, self-declared specialist in the field of RNA vaccines, an independent researcher and advisor. Oh shit, hold on. Wait, I'm just gonna call somebody real quick. Hello? Hello? If you're talking, I cannot hear you. Oh, sometimes on the phone Discord, you gotta leave and rejoin. Hello?
Hello?
Hi, I can hear you. Okay, wait, I'm just curious. Just a random question, okay? Real quick, you have no idea what I'm about to ask you, right? I didn't say anything in Discord or anything like that, right?
Well, how could I have known? You haven't messaged me in like 2 years.
Okay, shut up. Okay, it hasn't been 2 years. It's been like 4 months, okay?
It's like 1 year, yeah. It's been a really long time.
Okay, I'm just curious. Do you remember at the start of the pandemic, right?
Uh-huh.
Do you remember when people were talking about getting vaccinated? And remember how there was like all the jokes going around? You're like, oh, did you get the Pfizer or the Moderna or the J&J? What were the differences between those like 3 shots? Why were people joking about them?
I felt like the joke was like, oh, which vaccination did you get? Like a starter Pokemon. Like, did you pick Squirtle, Charmander, or Bulbasaur?
Yeah, but do you remember, were some people saying some were better or worse, and why?
I don't remember, sorry.
Oh my god.
I literally don't
my
remember.
God. All right, whatever.
Why? Wait, was they not... Sorry, do you want me to... You can privately message me in Discord and I'll say it so you can set up your joke on stream.
No, it's not a joke.
Okay, then what was it?
Hold on. Okay, I didn't type anything to you, but do you have anything you want to say?
Yeah. Well, oh, actually, now that you mention it, I do remember that people preferred the mRNA vaccines because they had a higher efficacy than the J&J ones. Hee hee.
Yep. Oh, thank you, Lily. I'm so glad you remember that. Thank you. That's all I needed. Okay, cool. Well, hey,
see you in a
have fun
year.
hanging
Bye.
out. Yep, bye. See, there you go. Let me get a Red Bull 1 sec. Was getting the J&J because in a third world country and easy access okay? I mean, there's nothing bad with it. It was just, they were just different. Yeah. Okay, whatever. Okay, this guy. Oh, actually, you know what? If English isn't his first language, that would actually explain why the writing looks like this. That's possible, actually. So maybe that explains why it looks weird like this. But I remember seeing scenes in Asia of people lining up for the Pfizer vaccine, like it was midnight release of the Xbox 360. I could be wrong. I had somebody email me this, and I didn't fact check it, so careful, low conviction. Somebody told me that China doesn't actually like the mRNA vaccines. For whatever reason, they didn't want to use them, and they produced their own. And the one that they produce is actually pretty dog shit. And as a result, they've had to do more lockdowns and more mandates of like public health stuff because the efficacy of their vaccines is not very high. I don't know if that's true or not. I had somebody email me that, but one guy in chat just said, that's true. And then underneath he said, not true. So there you go. As a dedicated virologist and vaccine expert, I only make an exception when health authorities allow vaccines to be administered in ways that threaten public health, most certainly when scientific evidence is being ignored. The typos too. Oof, okay. They present extremely critical situation. Oh, no, it's not a typo. I'm sorry. It's just written horribly. The present extremely critical situation forced me to spread this emergency call. As the unprecedented extent of human intervention in the COVID-19 pandemic is now at risk of resulting in a global catastrophe without equal, this call cannot sound loudly and strongly enough. As stated, I am not against vaccination. On the contrary, bro, why do you keep saying this? On the contrary, I can assure you that Each of the current vaccines have been designed, developed, and manufactured by brilliant and competent scientists. However, this type of prophylactic vaccines are completely inappropriate and even highly dangerous when used in mass vaccination campaigns against or during a viral pandemic. Wait, aren't most vaccines prophylactic? Isn't that the point? Or is he just saying, he was just putting an extra word in here, I guess. I don't know. Vaccinologists, scientists, and clinicians are blinded by the positive short-term effects in individual patients, but don't seem to bother about the disastrous consequences for global health. Unless I am scientifically proven wrong, it is difficult to understand how current human interventions will prevent circulating variants from turning into a wild monster. Racing against the clock, I am completing my scientific manuscript, the publication of which is unfortunately likely to come too late given the ever-increasing threat from rapidly spreading, highly infectious variants. This is why I decided to already post a summary of my findings as well as my keynote speech at the recent Vaccine Summit in Ohio on LinkedIn. Last Monday, I provided international health organizations, including the WHO, with my analysis of the current pandemics based on scientific and Let's not despair. I have not received any feedback thus far. Experts and politicians remain silent while obviously still Wait, so what was the point of this? Please read and share. Oh, what was this? The key question is, why does nobody seem to bother about viral immune escape? Let me try to explain this by means of more easily understood phenomenon, antimicrobial resistance. One can easily extrapolate this scourge to resistance to our self-made antiviral antibiotics. Indeed, antibodies produced by our own immune system can be considered self-made antiviral antibiotics. This guy has more education here than I do, so I would just assume everything he says is true. Antiviral antibiotics. Regardless of whether they are part of our innate immune system, so-called natural antibodies, or elicited in response to specific pathogens, resulting in so-called acquired antibodies. Although you're born with all the cells of your immune system, it gets stronger throughout your life as you are exposed to your body to more germs. It's called acquired immunity. That's not particularly acquired immunity is. What is innate immunity? What is that? Is innate immunity just like your body like raising its temperature and shit? Oh, okay. That makes sense. Innate immunity is so like your skin, yeah, and its enzymes, stomach acid, your cough reflex, mucus. Natural natural antibodies. Would you call these a natural antibody? Not just that, also certain white blood cells? Okay. Maybe you would. I don't know. I don't have a formal education here. I'm trying to like nitpick this guy, but I truly don't know, so I don't know. Whatever. Natural antibodies are not germ specific, whereas acquired antibodies are specifically directed at the invading pathogen. I mean, this is right. That's right. I'm just being a dick. At birth, our innate immune system is unexperienced but well established. It protects us from a multitude of pathogens, thereby preventing these pathogens from causing disease. As the innate immune system cannot remember the pathogens it encountered, innate immunity has so-called immunological memory. We can only continue to rely on it provided we keep it trained well enough. I don't understand this. Innate immunity also includes specific cellular cascades that recognize bacteria generally as opposed to being evolved against a specific pathogen mediated by things like toll-like receptors. When you talk about like cytokine response and shit, is that... I don't know, I'm not sure. Training is achieved by regular exposure to a myriad of environmental agents, including pathogens. However, as we age, we will increasingly face situations where innate immunity, often the first line of defense, is not strong enough to hold the pathogen at the port of entry. When this happens, the immune system is well as we grow up. We increasingly amount pathogen-specific immunity, including high-specific ABS, as those have stronger affinity for the pathogen and can reach high concentrations. They can quite easily outcompete our natural ABS. Similar to the rules applying to classical antimicrobial antibiotics, it is paramount that our self-made antiviral antibiotics are made available in sufficient concentration and are tailored at the specific feature of our enemy. That is why, in case of bacterial disease, it is critical to not only choose the right type of antibiotic based on the results from the antibiogram, but to also take the antibiotic for long enough according to the prescription. Failure to comply with these requirements is at risk of granting microbes a chance to survive and hence may cause the disease to flare up. Very similar mechanism may also apply to viruses, especially viruses that can easily and rapidly mutate, which is, for example, the case with coronaviruses. When the pressure exerted by the army's immune defense starts to threaten viral replication and transmission, the virus will take on another coat, so it can only be easily recognized and therefore attacked by the host immune system. The virus is now able to escape immunity, so-called immunity escape. However, the virus can only rely on the strategy provided it's still time for it to replicate. Viruses, in contrast, the majority of bacteria must rely on living host cells to replicate. That is why the occurrence of escape mutants isn't too worrisome, as long as the likelihood for those variants to rapidly find another host is quite remote. However, that's not particularly the case during a viral pandemic. During pandemic, the virus is spreading all over the globe, with many subjects shedding and transmitting the virus, even including asymptomatic carriers. The higher the viral load, the higher the likelihood for the virus to bump into subjects who haven't been infected yet or who were infected but didn't develop symptoms. Combination of viral infection on a background of suboptimal AB maturity and concentration enables virus to select mutations. Selection for those mutations preferably occurs S protein as the viral protein that is responsible for viral infectiousness. As selected mutations endow the virus with increased infectious capability, now it becomes much easier for the virus to cause severe disease and infectious symptoms. The more disease. Why is he worried that vaccines could cause this but not the virus itself? Am I missing something here? Okay, I don't know. Trying to find a VOD of an old ass stream you did back in Nebraska where you were raising money to fix your roof. You were playing cancer donations all stream long. Is this VOD still up somewhere? I think if you Google, or if you look for YouTube like Destiny, text-to-speech donations. This is a birthday stream. Was the birthday stream to raise money for the roof? But that's the video. Why didn't you just file a claim? Because it wasn't damaged. It was just like it needed to be replaced. Now, there was a lab leak theory, but the plurality of evidence and most reputable scientists on the matter say that it was most likely animal-to-animal transmission. My understanding is right now, the scientific community believes that that's true, but I don't think the conviction is super high. Like if it came out that like, oh, actually it probably did come from the Wuhan virus, I think most of the educated people in the field would be like, okay, that's definitely possible. I don't think it's like 100 or 99% that it came from the wet market. I think it's like, I don't even know, like 55, nah, probably like 60-ish%, I think, because I think the best studies right now that try to trace the, would you call it genealogy? I don't think you would. It traces it back to the, I think there were 2 big studies published on this, and I don't think anybody's challenged those findings yet. Destiny. Decoding the Gurus had a huge podcast with several people directly related. They seem to have a lot of conviction. Of what? The lab leak theory? Decoding the Gurus. Oh, I get posted in that sub a lot now. Oof, those guys hate me. Or I don't know if the people do, but the subreddit does. Time is the lecture? I think it's at 5:30. Want to give the vaccine only to the risk groups, i.e. old or sick? What was the point of giving it to everyone? I understand try to lower terms are supposed to show it only minor. The problem is that people are always recent brained. The first two strains, the initial strain of SARS-CoV-2, the first COVID causing disease. COVID is technically the name for the disease, but the first strain and then the Delta variant had respectable levels of hospitalization. Was it 1 to 3%, 1 to 2%? What was hospitalization for first SARS-CoV-2 virus? Let me check. Oh, holy shit. No shot. Was it over 15%? This might have been early on when it might have been really high early on because not everybody was getting tested yet, so we didn't know the actual numbers. Hospitalization rates in the US, approximately 15% of confirmed cases. I think it's like 3 to 5. I think it might have been like 3 to 5%. But basically, the problem was that like the hospitalization, I'm pretty sure it was over 1%. But the problem with the initial coronavirus, there was so many people getting infected that even with hospitalization rates that were in the single digits, low single digits, your hospitals were getting fucking swamped. So you give it to stop transmission, but it doesn't stop transmission. Well, one, if you don't get infected, you can't transmit it, and they did reduce infection, so it does stop transmission that way. And then two, if you are vaccinated, the likelihood of you having to go to the hospital is severely decreased as well, so you're not taking up a hospital bed. Those are the two huge points, is that it reduces the likelihood of getting infection, meaning you're not transmitting if you're not infected, and then two, it would reduce the severe symptoms that you wouldn't have to get hospitalized if you were infected, if you were vaccinated. Has any connection been made between any even mild chronic symptoms or diseases and COVID vaccinations? No. And they likely never will be. Source for reduced transmission? If you don't get infected, the problem is your brain right now is you're looking for a thing that is not measurable and doesn't exist because you've heard that like it doesn't reduce, like you've heard that a million times. If you don't get infected, do you understand that? If you don't get infected, you can't transmit the disease. So if you have a vaccine, so for instance, measles vaccines basically like destroy the transmission of the measles virus, not because it makes it so that you can't transmit measles if you don't have it, but if you don't get it, you don't transmit it, right? That when you talk about reducing the transmission of a disease, we're talking like societally as a vaccine. You're typically talking in terms of like all of society in reducing the transmission. Yeah, but I thought you could still get infected at the same rate. I don't believe you could get infected at the same rate, no. And if you did get infected, you would be more likely to be asymptomatic, which means less viral load, which also means less transmitting. I don't know if there probably were studies on that, but roles. What do you want? Hello, hello? Predict about handling the next pandemic or worse? It's probably going to come down to how severe it is, but initially it'll be worse. I think if it's bad enough, people will do what they need to do, but initially a lot of people are going to be skeptical literally no matter what.